What's good, everybody? We are with what was your last name? Eringman?
Eringman, yeah. I'm known as JohneFinance, though. There you go.
Yeah, JohneFinance from TikTok. Of course, you have IG. Now, you talk a lot about personal finance, and I really do think that's important nowadays. With a lot of kids, when they go on social media, they see a lot of entrepreneurs flossing, flexing their money, and that's cool and all, but that can be a bad indicator, or it can really bring a lot of anxiety in kids because it'll force them to make money fast. And in what you preach is long-term investing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, just like you said, there's a lot of people, flexing. They'll show their fancy cars, and that's the image that the younger generation gets, is like, oh, that's what it's like to be rich. I want to be rich. But I mean, in reality, it takes a long time to build wealth. There's not really any get rich quick schemes out there that are actually legitimate. So that's why I've been always preaching transparency and honesty for that long-term investing and all that. So
I do think that learning that as soon as possible is important. Of course, I do think that you could floss, flex, whatever you want to call it, as long as you have a good source or a good amount of money in the bank to back it up, right? If not, I guess there's a big difference between being wealthy and being rich. Like, what do you think your definition, or how do you compare being rich and wealthy?
yeah, that's a great question. I mean, if you're rich, that means you make a lot of money. You could make $1 million a year, but if you're spending $1 million a year, then your net worth is ultimately zero because you're spending everything that you're earning. To be wealthy is to actually, save that money, to invest it to make you more money. So some of the wealthiest people in the world will, live on a small budget and invest all their extra money so that, compounds on top of itself to make more money. So the rich, they'll live their fancy, flashy lives, but they don't truly have wealth as the wealthy do. So
yeah, one of my favorite documentaries. I love sports, and it was called Broke. I think it was a 60 for 60, and it talked about how college players or any athlete, professional athlete, would make huge amounts of money with a contract, right? Especially after college, it's time for a new team to get bonuses. And what they do is that they buy all these houses, all these cars, and years down the line, they're literally broke. And yet they made millions and millions and millions of dollars, but they didn't have that financial literacy to use that income, that huge source of income, and build wealth,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think those E60s are great, by the way. I mean,
Yeah.
I try and watch like all of them. They're really well put together, but I haven't seen that specific
no?
one, but I know, yeah, the general concept is like they'll buy these houses, these multi-million-dollar houses, and then once they retire, like they don't have the money coming in from their contract anymore, but they're still owing money on these houses, on these cars, all these things. So it's like, yeah, and you're exactly right. They don't have the financial literacy to really understand what their spending habits right now, how that will how those consequences will affect them in the future. So, and that's what I've been trying to preach. I just want to, help people understand the financial literacy, help people like with financial education so that they can really, set themselves up for their future.
So just talking about a little bit about me, like when I learned about personal finance, not that I don't know too much about it, but I read some books to kind of like talk about it, if that makes sense. It was in the middle of like college. I read this book called Money Master the Game by Tony Robbins. And he really talked about, investing in the Roth IRA and just holding your money, even Warren Buffett said it, just long-term investing, right?
Right.
That's when I really like figured out, oh, there's a long-term game to this. Of course, you can make money day trading and stuff like that, but they do recommend to invest long-term. Now,
Right.
in your personal story, when did you kind of get into investing?
Yeah, so I really didn't know much about money growing up. It was kind of just the normal, like, you don't really talk about money in our household. But growing up, yeah, like when I got to college, my brother actually told me about an app called Acorns. You've probably heard of it, but it's basically, yeah, it takes like cents from whatever you've spent and it invests that. So that's when I kind of saw how like even just pennies or like 5 cents a day can actually like add up to like a few hundred or a few $1,000s over like a few years. So that was kind of my first like dip in the water of investing. And that was, I think that was freshman year of college is when that happened. But yeah, did you have a specific app or like anything that you started investing with?
No, it was literally, I've always wanted, like in high school, I've always wanted to invest, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it was day trading, long-term trading. I just wanted to invest. And I just held that thought, the idea for a very long time until like college, where I just read these books, these entrepreneurial books. And
Mm-hmm.
of course, there'll be some chapters about like, hey, like you should really invest long term, right?
Right.
Especially when I read Money Master the Game. It was like a 500-page book. I think at that time it was the biggest, longest book that I've read. And once I read it, I was like, wow, I know a lot. The thing that sucks is that, you know, when you try to look back at it, you kind of forget a lot of things. But one thing
Sure.
that
Yeah.
just resonated was like, okay, look, dude, if you put X amount of money, if you have like an initial capital and you put X amount of money every month, and say you get a 7% annual return on your Roth IRA,
Mm-hmm.
no fees, make sure you do all your homework, all your due diligence,
Mm-hmm.
then you're gonna be a millionaire by the time you're 65.
Yeah,
I'm like, wow, that's, you know what, that's actually pretty cool. Easier said than done.
that's true. Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? After reading that book, I almost immediately opened a Roth IRA on TD Ameritrade and got to it. I mean, I saw all these tabs, all these graphs. It was
It's
completely,
intimidating.
it was
Yeah.
extremely, extremely intimidating. And I had to look back on the book. I was like, okay, am I doing this right? Roth IRA. And the guy was like, make sure your first index fund, or what he recommends, is like Vanguard VTI. All right, cool. I put my first, I think it was my first $500 in there, all VTI. I don't know if that was the right move, but I
Mm-hmm.
just knew that I had to get started.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's how I got started.
No, that's awesome. Like that, it is the hardest step is to get started. It's like you like how long you were sitting on wanting to invest for a while. And I feel like a lot of people do that. It's like they know they should invest, but they don't really know how to get started. And then once they do get started, it's intimidating with all the graphs. So it's like, it's, investing shouldn't be this hard. You know, it should be easy and accessible to everyone. And that's why I've like tried to, you know, create that financial education so it is easy and accessible to everyone. But yeah, and I think I haven't read that Tony Robbins book, but I know he has some great stuff on you know, money especially. And I just think this is also like a side note. I think that reading any type of, you know, financial education book is extremely helpful, like especially when you're young. So um,
Yeah,
yeah.
I do agree on that, because in school, at least in my school, I didn't learn about, you know, personal finance and credit
Right.
score. I literally had to like learn that by reading these books.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really cool because, like, you know, if you really do apply it, then it can be a huge benefit to your life, but it's not really talked about now with like social media, and like a lot of people are talking about it. You can get a lot of good sources of information. I know with your TikToks, 15-second TikToks, you know, there's so much abundance of information that you can learn. And it's good that you are providing that to such a young audience, because on TikTok you find a young audience.
For sure. Yeah. And also like, just to go off of that, it's like these financial concepts, they aren't taught in school. Everyone that I've talked to that knows a lot about personal finance or investing, it's all self-taught. They go online or they'll like watch some videos, or yeah, they'll get on social media and have the conversation, but it's never directly taught to them like in their households or in schools, which is mind blowing to me. So that's why, yeah, I think having social media gives us a voice to start teaching about financial education. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I just think that if people have that financial education, the literacy and all that, that they'll be able to make smarter choices. And in all honesty, they'll have like a happier and healthier life
Yeah.
because of that. So,
What are some like core principles that you want to like drill into like millennials and Gen Z's head? Like, what are some core principles that everyone should know?
yeah, I mean, the first thing is we talked about is the long-term game. Like you have to have a long-term approach. You know, Rome was not built in a day. You need to, you know, understand that building wealth is going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight. Like it's not, because you see these day traders and that they'll like flip a stock and make, you know, like 10,000 or 20,000 in a day, and they're like, oh my gosh, like I can do that too. But it just it's so rare that would happen that, and even some of the books that I've read, they just preach long-term investing. And I don't know if you've heard this statistic, like something like 95% of day traders can't beat an index fund, things like that. But so definitely long-term investing is my number one priority to teach to like the younger generation. I also think just saving money in general, like you don't have to necessarily invest all your money, but I think saving money in the bank gives you so many options. It's like, let's say if you have $20,000 in the bank, you can do so many things with that. You can travel the world for a year. You could start a business. You could get into real estate. You could, invest it. You could take time off. There's just so many things you can do with saved money. And that's the thing. Like, I know a lot of people in the United States, they like to spend all their money on whatever it is, and they don't have that emergency fund necessarily. So I just think if you can live within your means or live below your means just for, a few years as you're getting started, invest the money smartly, it can really set you on a trajectory to be successful in life. So the long-term approach, as well as saving a majority of your money, is what I'm trying to preach to people.
Yeah. I've spoken to a few like swing traders and day traders, and that's a complete and opposite spectrum of, long-term trading, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And, I was definitely kind of suspicious of like, oh, you can make money day trading, swing trading. But when I talked to these other day traders and swing traders, they told me like, yeah, they lost money initially in the first 6 months, maybe the first year and a half. But as they got better in their skill, they developed money. Now, in your opinion, do you think that those strategies, they do work, but you don't like the people who preach them because maybe they're just trying to sell a course? Like we don't want to like demonize this day trading and swing trading, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know. It's got a bad connotation just because like people do try and sell courses, and when they do that, like they're convincing other people that, hey, you can make $10,000 overnight just buy my course. Like obviously that's just not good. Like I do not recommend that at all. The day traders who do trade, like I guess long-term day traders who like will do it like for years and years, obviously that's in their best interest if they want to do that. Obviously a lot do make money and then a lot don't. So it just depends on, I guess, what I'm trying to, just cut out is the fake gurus, the people who say, hey, day trading can make you rich. Mm-hmm. In reality, it would take time and effort with anything like drop shipping. Like you can make money drop shipping, but it's going to take years of hard work to like build that up. There's no get rich quick scheme. So I know there are, some swing traders on TikTok. I don't have any like bad, influence over them or whatever. But I think it's a good question just to like understand where all of us are. We just have different opinions.
Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah.
I do think that, with long-term trading, the skill required to know about it is, a lot less stressful than knowing day trading. Because I saw in one of your videos, in TikTok videos, it was really funny. Like once the stock market crashes, the day trader kind of rushes to a computer, and the long-term investor is just, just chilling,
reading a book, not doing much. Yeah.
I remember during like, COVID, like in March when everyone was went hectic, and people were, talking about their money in the stock market. And I think right before COVID, I put like another $500 in it. And of course, like I took like a loss, but again, I was like, whoa, I'm going to invest until like I'm 60 years old. And exactly. So I really shouldn't worry. And I mean, it does suck, but you can't really time the market, right? You just got to put money in on a consistent basis, right?
Yeah. And that's what I've been saying. Like if you just, dollar cost averaging is basically putting money in every week or every month. And so, it doesn't really matter if it goes up or down after that. Like the long term, over 100 or not 100 years, but like when you're 60 years old, it's going to be inevitably more money than what you put in. So instead of stressing yourself out with like if it goes down or goes up or whatever, just set it and forget it type of approach. And I think that's really the best. Yeah. And I just wanted to touch on one more thing on the day traders out there. It's like there's people on Wall Street who like eat, sleep, and breathe like, you know, trading, like day trading, like back and forth. Like they'll do this 60, 80 hours a week for 20 plus years. And I'm sure they can make good trades. They make great money, obviously, but it's the people who just started trading like a few months ago, and then now they're trying to give advice to other people. And it's like, no, like it doesn't work like that. You can't just, you know, hop into it. And then, so that's kind of where my beef is with the day traders there. So I just wanted to clarify that.
No, yeah, I think with any topic, not just day trading and swing trading, like you said, drop shipping, whatever it is,
Exactly. Yeah.
you do need to know your stuff. And plus, with a lot of new entrepreneurs on social media, you do have to be careful where you get your information from,
Mm-hmm.
and really trust the person behind the screen, right?
Absolutely.
Because yeah, if you just want to like go for that, maybe a scam, or going for that course that guy doesn't really know much about, then it can get dangerous. But I do believe that there's a lot of good, like a lot of resources, a lot of entrepreneurs online, but there's kind of diluted, it's watered down with a lot of people kind of being fake gurus, as you said.
Right.
And I think anyone listening kind of has to like watch out and kind of have like an eye open to that.
Yeah, it is. You have to, I mean, you just have to do your research. You have to, you know, just absorb as much information as you can from all different angles, see all different points of views, and then make your own opinion up. You know, like obviously, like I've read a lot of books, and some of the books I don't agree with, some of them I do, and I've kind of created my own opinion. And that's like where, you know, it's kind of on you to just self-educate as much as you can, and then, you know, make your own opinion. But it's tough out there. There's a lot of misinformation and all that. So it is tough.
Mm-hmm.
But.
Now, I feel that the definition of being financially independent can change across each person you ask, right? You know, maybe
Sure.
one guy wants to retire with like a mansion. The other person is very, you know, maybe just wants to have like a nice apartment and not worry about working another day. Everyone has their own definition of being financial independent. Now, depending on what situation or what goals you have, I guess let's put it this way: what's like your definition of like personal, being financial independent, and what are you doing to kind of achieve that?
Yeah, I mean, and it's true. There are tons of different definitions for financially independent, and it does kind of come down to what you value and what do you think of it. But my personal definition of financial independence is just having enough money saved and invested that you don't need to work anymore. Basically, your investments are paying you a livable wage. Now, I'm not saying you'll be able to live in a mansion or anything like that, but you'll be able to get by, and you won't have to work a 9-to-5 job, essentially. So, you know, whether it's like if you have $1 million and it's the dividends are paying you $50,000 or whatever, or if you have some real estate and the rental properties are giving you money, whatever income source it has, it is providing you a livable wage. And so the second question to that is like, how am I achieving financial independence? I'm basically saving as much money as I can. I'm investing I would say I'm investing 80% of my money into the stock market. I actually just bought a house. I'm in it right now. It's a duplex, and I'm renting out the other side. So I'm in like real estate investing basically. So probably 20% of my money is going towards that as well. So I do want, some rental income. I'm obviously looking for dividend income. And I mean, I've been trying to do side hustles and other things like that. I do still have a 9-to-5 job. So that's, you know, juggling all these different things to try and best like maximize my returns basically. So I do plan on being financially independent by early 30s, honestly. I'm 24 right now, and I could see myself, you know, getting out of my career in, you know, 5 to 10 years. So.
But as like, I heard that when you're young, you should have a moment or maybe like a risk bucket where, you know, having an investment and be a little risky. We're not saying put 100% on cryptocurrency or on green when you go on Reddit when you go on the roulette table.
Right.
Maybe, what do you think is the right approach? Maybe 80-20, 80% of it can go to a Roth IRA. The other 20% can go to other buckets where one can be cryptocurrency, other one can be, I don't know, whatever it is that you want.
Yeah, no, I love that question, just because everyone, again, it all depends on what your goals are. Like my goal, I want to be, financially secure and financially independent in my, early to mid 30s. So I am taking some risk by, I think real estate can have its risks as well. So I'm putting some money into that. But I am going a little more conservative with just, putting it into index funds. I think that's a safe and passive investment. I do have a very small sliver of my money in crypto, but it's maybe like 1% of my entire portfolio. That's just speculative, it's risky. If I lose it, it doesn't really matter, But with other people, maybe they want to live in a mansion and they want to, gamble a little bit more while they're young, they can always recover. So if they want to do some options trading, if they want to, put some money in cryptocurrency, obviously, like we said, we don't want to go 100% into these risky options, but I don't want to demonize like options or anything like that. So if you have, 5, maybe 10% in options or cryptocurrency, especially when you're young, I think that's totally acceptable. So.
In terms of real estate, was that something that you always wanted to do? Like maybe diversify your portfolio?
Yeah. So, I don't know. Are you familiar with Bigger Pockets?
No.
Okay. Bigger Pockets is basically, it's just, it's like Facebook for real estate type of thing. So it's like a big community, people who are in real estate. They have a great podcast. They have great YouTube videos and everything. But so I started reading some of their books. I was watching their videos, and I just think, real estate is one of the most lucrative investments. It's always going to be around. Some of the wealthiest individuals own a bunch of real estate. So I wanted to get in, but I didn't want to, take too much risk. I didn't want to flip houses or anything. But, so house hacking is what it's called. I bought a duplex and I'm living in the top unit while renting out the bottom unit. So basically, not all of my mortgage is covered, but most of my mortgage is covered by the downstairs tenant. I'm paying like a little bit too, but I just knew that I did want to diversify my investments. So that's why I wanted to get into real estate. Again, I think it's lucrative. It's a very, it's not safe, but it's always going to be around. So I don't know. Have you ever thought of real estate or anything, or?
To be honest, at this very moment, I actually have college debt, right? And I'm just trying to decide to take that away as soon as possible. But I do have, some percentage, like 10% of my income, 15% of my income goes to the Roth IRA, right? So I'm really aggressive. I don't spend anything, maybe just like a gym membership. That's really about it. Just try to pay my student loans as fast as possible and then put aside like 10-15% of my income into my Roth IRA. But in terms of real estate, I've never really thought about it. I've been more towards like side hustles, how can I make more money so that maybe once I do that, it can make more money than my actual 9-to-5 and then start building on that. Or maybe I can do both simultaneously and pay off my student loans as soon as possible. But the idea of it sounds cool, but I've never really been like, oh man, I can't wait. But I know it's really important because my brother, he recently paid off his student loans and he definitely wants to go on it. My aunt in Colombia, she likes to invest in real estate. So the idea is definitely really cool. And, I think the idea of owning a duplex, triplex, living in it and having people pay for the mortgage potentially is a really neat idea, but I haven't really gone to that in depth of taking action.
Yeah, well, I think if you have some family members who might be interested into it, I think learning from each other if they've bought a house before, I think that's really beneficial. I know my brother kind of walked me through some of the steps it takes to buying a house, things like that. So I think it's definitely a great investment, especially if you're young too. But
so I feel that transition of just investing in stocks and going into real estate can be a really hard one because it sounds intuitive, that switch, but I know there's a lot of homework that needs to be done. So when you made that investment of the duplex, did you use the community from Big Pockets, or did you kind of have like a partner?
Yeah, so I knew I wanted to buy a duplex. I had the money saved up. I saved up for over a year for a down payment on a house because I knew I wanted to do that. But yeah, I did use a lot of resources from Bigger Pockets. Just the community there is awesome. It's free. Like everything's free to use. So I think it's just a great website. And but I was actually at a real estate meetup. It wasn't a real estate meetup. It was like a finance meetup type thing. So and that's actually where I met my agent, my real estate agent. She was giving like a speech or giving a talk, and I went up to her afterwards. I was like, hey, like you're like what you're talking about. I'm interested in buying a house. Would you want to represent me? She was like, absolutely, because she was an agent herself, and that's kind of how that connection was made. I got pretty lucky, and she helped me along the way. And I think people often overlook meetups and things like that because it's kind of a drag to like go to a meetup sometimes. But I mean, the connections you make are invaluable, and she saved me probably thousands of dollars just by helping me through like, oh, you need to look for this and you need to like watch out for that and things like that. So it's something I want to get more into, is going into these real conversations. But with COVID, there's not been too many meetups recently. So,
Yeah.
But that's why I think having conversations like these are always powerful. So I think you must learn a lot from your podcast, having other guests on. And I think that's really neat.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've spoken to like some realtors, real estate agents, people who invest in real estate, and I've learned a lot. However, like there's still a lot of lingo that I don't understand. But once you kind of like say I do what you're doing or do what other people are doing, I'll learn like almost instantaneously. So there's a huge difference between like listening. I mean, I guess when you listen and ask questions, you learn a lot more than just like listening from another podcast.
Sure.
But once you take the actual initiative to do something, you just end up learning,
Yeah. And I mean, going off of that, like when you started your podcast, obviously you like learn like, okay, what do I need to do to set it up? But you don't actually know what you're getting into until you actually, have that first episode. And I'm sure you've learned a lot, even just from your first episode to now. So.
Oh yeah, there's tons of nuances that, when you watch YouTube videos, it doesn't teach you absolutely everything,
Right.
If you follow the tutorial from like the whole thing, back and forth, you get to learn a lot. But once you apply it, once you go to taking initiative, it's a different story because you're going to mess up,
Absolutely.
You're going to mess up. And that goes for anything. I can just imagine real estate. I spoke to one guy, he has like tons of experience and he lost like 40,000 on a deal and he has a lot of experience. So everyone, even to the most experienced people, have go through mistakes. And just imagine just a beginner.
Yeah. I mean, and it's all, it's learning from those mistakes. So, you are going to get tripped up. You're not going to know everything. You just kind of have to dive into it. And that's how you learn. But going back to one more thing, you said that, you're more interested in like side hustles, like kind of create some income so you can pay off your student loans and then eventually, maybe leave or switch your 9-to-5 job.
Yeah.
A lot of people reach out to me saying, hey, I have $1,000 or I have $2,000. I want to invest it. What stock should I pick or what do I invest in? And like, they could invest in an index fund and get them, 7% return over the next like 60 years or whatever. But if you have that, like if you only have $1,000 or $2,000, I think buying something that can make you more money, like if you bought a camera for YouTube, or like if you bought mics and cameras, for a podcast that can eventually make you more money, I think that's a better investment than just putting money into like a stock or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, assuming that they only have an initial capital of $1,000 and they're not putting anything in, then maybe it is a good idea to, use that just $1,000 and make something out of it,
Sure.
If you don't have an additional income every month to, put fuel to the Roth IRA, then maybe it is a better idea than to start a business or something. The hard part is finding a really strong passion or interest, because with YouTube, is definitely possible, right? If you
Mm-hmm.
have thousands of subscribers. I mean, people definitely blow up on YouTube, but it takes much, much longer, you know? Maybe even starting a TikTok, you know, people have been making money through brand deals. If they get really serious about it. I know you have a large following. I'm pretty sure that brands and people have hit you up.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have like a large following and take TikTok seriously, then you can go on their program and maybe start making sponsored content and making money
Mm-hmm.
there for free. But I definitely do believe in that. If you have $1,000, there's so many side hustles that one could participate in. You gotta
Absolutely.
choose. You gotta choose the one that you like.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. There's no like right investment. Like, oh, should I, drop ship, or should I, put something else? Like, I know someone, like, yeah, he only had, I think he had $2,000. He bought a drone, and then like with a camera mounted to it. And he started like doing like drone photography, like for businesses, like get like overviews of their either businesses or like their parking lots and things like that. I'm like, that's so cool. Like you would like, you never expect like that. And that $2,000 initial investment has made him way more than, $2,000 just from, him getting clients and doing these little like side hustle things. So you don't need a lot of money to get started. It's just kind of, yeah, finding that passion or finding something that you're really interested in. I think that's some of the, like the hardest part. So.
Yeah, and I do think that a lot of people might have the misconception like, oh, we're living through a pandemic. There's no opportunities. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like the job market might be extremely difficult, but there's still an opportunity to make money online. And what really made me believe that was through TikTok. I see a bunch of like small business owners, drop shippers.
Mm-hmm.
They just kill it, you know. And
Absolutely.
that $1,000, like say you fail and like you're young, at least you kind of have that experience to
Right. Yeah.
to create something.
Yeah, yeah.
You
Even
know?
like you said, even if you fail at a business, you would have learned so much more than just, throwing it into your Roth IRA. Even though I do preach Roth IRAs, but it's just like that experience, is invaluable, especially as a young person. So,
Hmm.
mhm.
Do you have any personal side hustles that you started or are doing right now?
I started a few side hustles, in high school. I did some like I was doing like t-shirts, and then I tried some YouTube videos, just different things like that. And then yeah, most recently TikTok has just kind of taken over my life, really. I actually started making TikTok videos in, I guess it was January. Yeah, it was January of 2020, like right when 2020 started. I posted probably 3 or 4 videos a week, and I just stuck on a consistent schedule. And I didn't have much success until like a few months later. Like I had a few videos blow up, got more of a following, and then just stayed consistent. And that's when, yeah, I really blew up. Was probably just like a month ago, maybe just a few weeks ago, is really when I saw my most growth. And now I'm up over 700,000 followers. And like you said, yeah, it's like that exponential growth. I put just the time. It didn't cost me anything. Like I record on my phone, and I use a light, but that's all I use. And now I am making some money from the TikTok Creator Fund. I haven't done any sponsorships yet because I want to, really, if I'm going to sponsor something, I'd want to really like believe in the product. I don't want to just like sell out for some, product that I don't believe in, but
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll come soon enough. And hopefully I can start, monetizing some of my following. And I also want to get onto YouTube eventually too. So that's kind of my side hustle so far.
Yeah, I remember I came across your page like a month ago the first time. You're like on my For You page, and throughout like using TikTok, I've seen you, and I think you had like tens of thousands of followers.
Mm-hmm.
But when I look back, you had like 100,000, then out of nowhere, like
It's
over
crazy. Yeah.
700,000. So you really hit an inflection point and increase your following. And the beauty of that is that, you can leverage that TikTok audience and, move them to your to your YouTube, Instagram, and kind of create more of like a personal brand or a brand of your own around what you're doing now. Or,
Yeah,
you might create
absolutely.
your own product or service, which is really cool.
Yeah, and I mean that's like all in the works right now. I'm working on building a website. I got I'm trying to create some type of like YouTube studio where I can film So yeah, there are a lot of things that are in the works, and that's why I think building an audience is so valuable because you will have that following on like all platforms. And so I think even just starting a podcast, you're active on Instagram and all that, you're active on YouTube. I think that's going to start to pay off. Soon enough it'll start snowballing. So
For sure. Do you think, like just going back to like personal finance, what's like another important aspect for me? Like I hear a lot about like building up your credit score. I don't really know too much about that. Anyone listening, they probably don't know too much. They probably heard about, yes, get a Roth IRA, invest your 401k, make sure you match that. But in terms of getting credit cards, I just thought, oh, it was just a concept of like borrowing money and, you know, paying it back whenever you buy
right.
something, right? But there's actually an incentive to that, right?
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
more to that. So what is that exactly? What is it?
Yeah, I'll touch on that for sure. It's a lot of people don't truly understand like the benefits of having credit. So when you open up a credit card, you're basically borrowing money. Like you swipe the card, it's borrowing money, and then at the end of the month you have to pay it back. So if you are, reliable, if you're trustworthy and you pay that back on time every month, you never miss a payment, you're paying it off in full, you're never late or anything, that's going to build that trustworthiness, which is essentially building your credit score. So when you have a good credit score, then you can get great, great interest rates on a car whenever you buy a house. They know you're trustworthy with your debt, so they're going to give you, better rates. It's the people that get into credit card debt or they don't pay off their credit card, then they're like, okay, this borrower is risky, to the credit card companies. And so they're going to charge them for that riskiness. They're going to charge higher interest rates. And so that's why establishing a good credit score is so essential. Even if let's say you just get a credit card, you just put gas on it, for your car, and then you pay it off every single month. If you do that for 6 months, your credit score is going to go up significantly, and you'll be able to, gain access to more credit and, leverage, buy a house with low interest rates or buy a car with low interest rates. So hopefully that kind of explained the question, but I think it's absolutely necessary for people to start building their credit early.
Okay. And another incentive like is you can actually build up points, right? You can use those
Yeah.
points to buy things, get free trips maybe,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. There's a whole community of people who they'll get multiple credit cards, and obviously they're responsible with their credit cards, but they'll get multiple credit cards, and because they're responsible with them, they'll pay them off. They'll get sign-up bonuses essentially. So it's like if you open up a Chase credit card and you spend $3,000 in the first 3 months, you'll get 30,000 points or whatever it is. And those points are worth, free travel or free cash back even. So, I mean, you can really, credit cards are really powerful if used correctly. And that's the thing that's I try and preach. So,
Yeah, I have one friend when I play soccer with, and like every year he's going on a new trip that's completely paid for in terms of the flights. And he said, yeah, he just leverages his credit cards, like I guess his travel hacking with his credit cards. I don't know. And it's really cool. It's like I don't completely understand it, but the whole concept of it is amazing. And I just have a credit card whenever I buy gas or go to like the cashier when I'm going to pay for something. I try to use my credit card as much as possible. But yeah, it is important to be responsible because I heard that the credit card interest is one of the worst.
Yeah.
If you don't have any if you don't do the payments.
Yeah, credit card debt is basically the worst debt you can have. I don't know, like if you have debt on your house, it's relatively low, maybe 3 to 5%. Car debt can be anywhere 5 to 10%. I know student loan debt, I guess it depends on the student loans, but I don't see any above probably 10%. But then credit card debt is 25%, which is just insane. So if you're in $10,000 of credit card debt, you also have to pay 2,500 extra like on top of that, and that's how like it snowballs. It's really a bad thing to get into credit card debt, and that's why it's important. Like a credit card can be your best friend and get you travel rewards and build your credit score, or it can be your worst enemy where you're paying off, multiple high interest loans. So, yeah.
So you think once you hit 18 years old, you should, open a brokerage account, a Roth IRA, and get a line of credit, right?
Yeah, absolutely. If you're 18 years old, I highly recommend getting a Roth IRA. You can do that through Fidelity. TD Ameritrade's a great one. Vanguard, Charles Schwab does one too. I mean, you can get one really at any brokerage. And then also, open up a line of credit. It doesn't have to be anything big. I mean, you can get credit cards that have a $500 limit. Just spend it on gas and pay it off every single month. And after, 6 months to a year, you'll be able to build a good credit score and you'll start investing in your Roth IRA. And that's really, that's going to set you up like so far ahead of everyone else. So.
Yeah. And in your journey, did you have, a specific budget, an Excel sheet, a spreadsheet, and kind of have like automated tools for like, if 10% of your income goes directly to your TD Ameritrade, for example? Did you kind of have those systems in place?
So honestly, not at first. At first, I just kind of, whenever I had money, I would, throw it into my Roth IRA, or, if I had money, I would put it into Acorns because I had that too. But it's probably, within the past year or two is really when I started to create my systems. And I think that's very important, is to create your systems. One of my biggest video on TikTok is to set up automatic payments on your credit card, so you never miss a credit card payment. I think automating things just makes it so much, just so helpful. You can automate your investments, you can automate your savings, you can automate your credit card payments. So setting up those systems, once you have them established, that's how you exponentially grow your wealth too. So.
Yeah, because I don't have any systems in place in terms of like putting 10% of what I make into the Roth IRA. And so literally I went 4 months without investing at all. I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything. So I just put like a larger chunk of money into the Roth IRA.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I hear, you mentioned dollar cost averaging, right?
Yeah.
Is it better to put in, I don't know what the math is behind it, but is it better to put large chunks of money, say every 3 months, into a Roth IRA, or to put it in small installments every month or every week?
Yeah. So I think, the math behind it says that if you, let's say you inherit $10,000, people are always asking, should they put that in immediately, or should they kind of like dollar cost average it, like maybe $1,000 per month for the next 10 months? The math behind that says you should put it in immediately. You should just put the $10,000 in, and basically, because the longer it's in the market, the more it has to compound. So the more you'll make it like in the long run. But so you should do that if you're strictly based on numbers. But the emotional side, a lot of people talk about, emotional investing or the psychology of finance. If you're more comfortable putting in $1,000 a month for the next 10 months, then you should do that. That'll help you sleep at night. That'll, kind of make you feel better about investing. So I guess, there's two answers. If you want the maximum return, put the $10,000 in. If you want to, have that stable sleep and all that, just dollar cost average it. So.
Yeah, that reminds me of the student loan strategy, where you pay it off, just the snowball effect and the avalanche method, where, the snowball, basically you can pay the lowest interest off first. And psychologically, say you have like 10 loans that you're paying off, and with the snowball effect, you pay the smallest one first, and month by month, year by year, you go from like 10 independent loans to 3, right? But if you do the highest interest first, which you should do mathematically, it's better. You still have all those 10 loans. Yeah. All those 10 loans are going to be, they're still going to be shown on your screen, but the amount of time is going to be reduced because you're tackling the highest paid interest first. So it's all really psychological or mathematical, like depending on how you want to go about it.
Exactly. And with a great quote that I hear is, personal finance is personal. So there's no golden rule for everyone to use. So if you're more of a, conservative, or you want to get those psychological wins by doing the snowball method to pay off debt, then you should do that. But if you, want to just maximize your returns or whatever, then Avalanche is for you. So
Mm-hmm.
do you have a system in place that you're doing like Avalanche or Snowball, or are you just kind of paying it off?
Right now it's the Snowball. Yeah. And
Okay, great.
I
Yeah.
definitely, there's a minimum payment, but I definitely put another 60%. Like I said, I put right now 63% of my income into into the student loans.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
then like another 10-15% into my Roth IRA. And actually I realized that like 3-4 months ago, I didn't really have, or I wasn't putting a good amount of money into my not a reserve account, but what's that called when you
Savings
have
account or
like a savings account?
oh, an emergency?
An emergency fund. There we go.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, wow, like I'm actually not going aggressive on this. I really need it. All these books telling me that, oh, you should have at least 6 months saved up.
Mm-hmm.
That if you don't have a job, then you're going to be good for 6 months. So you can find another opportunity and work. Right. And I actually did not have that in play. So I started going aggressive on that because that kind of scared me, and all these books kind of said that. So
right, yeah,
action
yeah. I mean, that's a good point. Having an emergency fund, it will protect you, from a job loss, or if the stock market crashes, or like if your car like goes out or whatever. So having that emergency fund is essential for personal finance. But just setting up, like you said, you were putting 63% of your income to your student loans, and then you had another 10 to 15 going to your Roth IRA. Setting up those, once those loans are paid off, then you're going to have that habit of saving a lot of money anyway. And you're going to be able to funnel that all into whether it's investments or, real estate. So, I mean, you're really setting yourself up for those like mental wins. And I think that's a lot of people just they don't do that. They'll spend first and save last, where you're prioritizing savings. So that's awesome to hear.
Yeah. And it's all because of those books,
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you have like a favorite set of books or podcast YouTubers that you kind of like to follow?
Yeah, I highly recommend anything Bigger Pockets. So Bigger Pockets they're focused on real estate, but they also have a podcast called Bigger Pockets Money, which focuses on personal finance. Mm-hmm. And they also have another podcast called Bigger Pockets Business, which talks about entrepreneurship. So, I mean, they are really great at putting out content. They have a great YouTube channel. Their blogs are amazing. So anything Bigger Pockets, I'm a fan of. And then as far as like some of the YouTubers, obviously Graham Stephan, I mean, he is at the top of his game on everything personal finance. Trying to think of like any books. Like there's some psychological books like Think and Grow Rich, I think is a great one. Have you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad?
Yeah, but I kind of forgot a lot of the concepts, but I have like the core ones. Mm-hmm. But that's definitely, I know there's like 5 other books, but that's like the main one that everyone listens
Yeah. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's like the #1 best-selling personal finance book of all time, which it is great. It makes you understand, what's an asset and what's a liability, really to pay yourself first rather than, spending first. So I think that's a great book too. But yeah, what are some of your favorite books other than like the Tony Robbins one? I know you've read quite a few others.
So yeah, Rich Dad, Poor Dad was definitely one. One quick note on that is that I was actually really surprised that, houses, a lot of people think of them as assets, but they're more liabilities. And it was like a picture of like the overall growth of like a house, if that makes sense, over time. And it's practically like the value of it doesn't increase on average, right? That's kind of like crazy thing. Another book that's more low key, it's not really an entrepreneurship book per se. It's more like biographies. I read like the Steve Jobs one. This guy called.
That's a great one.
Yeah. Conrad Hilton. He's like a hotelier. He did like the Hilton hotels. Wow. That's actually my favorite one because it just shows like he went from like not rags to riches because he had like a good background, but he went through like the Depression and other like financial like catastrophes in his life. This book called Think and Grow Rich. Yeah, I didn't finish it, but I read most of it. The Richest Man in Babylon.
That's 10%. It's crazy. Like some of these books, like Think and Grow Rich, Richest Man in Babylon, they were written in like 1930s or something crazy like that.
Mm-hmm.
but all the principles are still relevant today. And that's why I think like there's such great books, just because, you know, they stand the test of time in personal finance, which is just awesome.
Yeah, I think if you have those core fundamentals are never going to change. Yes, like
Exactly.
systems may change, but
Hmm.
the core values would still be the same. Other entrepreneurial books besides like finance ones are Rich 20 something. Uh, just this guy, he was working in a restaurant and he was not liking his job.
Hmm.
And he had like one real talent that he kind of said, and it was taking tests. He was like an okay student, but he was an awesome test taker and he did
Okay.
really well in his SATs. So he leveraged that skill and made a business around that. And then he's like, yeah, like find your passion, find your skill set, build a business around that. So like that kind of got me into like about entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
There's another one called the $100 Startup, which
Hmm.
is just the premise is just about, oh, you don't need thousands of dollars. It's just a bunch of case studies of people who started with $100 or less,
Hmm.
literally, and making businesses, really successful ones. You know, um, that was a good one. And there's some other ones that I forgot, but those
Yeah.
were the
I
ones I
just,
read.
I think it's awesome because like, and that's why I say like people, if you don't know where to start, I think you should just start either reading books or listening to podcasts, because hearing those stories just get like me, and I know you too, they get you so motivated to, you know, start, you know, working on finding your passion or start a business or something like that. Like if you're just, you know, driving the car to work, listening to music all day, and then, or listening to music on your way to work, you work all day and then you come home and then you watch Netflix, like that's not going to motivate you to do,
Yeah,
you know. So I think that's why books are so powerful. Podcasts, like I listen to podcasts all the time, and you just hear inspirational stories of these amazing people, and you're like, wow, like they started from where I was, I can do that same thing. So um, I always recommend podcasts and books to people if they're still kind of searching for some type of, you know, route to go down.
yeah. And this may sound cheesy, but it all takes one book, one podcast, just one story to kind of change your perspective on things, your mindset. Um,
Absolutely.
because before, like I think I told someone else, I was happy being like a minimalist. Um, but then reading these stories, hearing about these stories is kind of something, just a trigger went inside my head. And I was
Yeah,
like, oh,
yeah.
I just want to do more. Like, wow, like
Right.
these guys really are killing it. And that just made me think like I can do a lot more. Why can
Hmm.
I? And like it doesn't have to be you're like your Elon Musk or
Right,
you're
right.
all these superstar entrepreneurs, just people like your everyday people
Hmm.
um, that are just creating huge businesses. And you know, I think
Yeah.
there's one podcast called uh, How I Built This,
Mm.
or even Shopify Masters, where they talk about in Shopify Masters they talk about like some tactics about how these uh, business owners made an e-commerce site and how they scaled it. But in
Yeah.
How I Built This, there's like a one story of like Lululemon, the founder of Lululemon, how he started that. Um, like this crazy stories that of entrepreneurs that you never even heard of with
Hmm.
amazing stories, and you know it can kind of change your perspective on things.
Yeah, it fuels that fire underneath you, you know, it gets you motivated. And then that's when you start, you know, taking those small action steps. Again, you're not going to build a business within a day or within a week. You know, it's going to take small incremental steps. And actually, that reminds me of another book. There's a book called The Compound Effect. Basically, it just talks about getting 1% better every single day. And you're going to start to see that exponential growth in, you know, whether it's your job, your income, your relationships, things like that. So yeah, if you can just keep taking one step, look at that long-term growth. I mean, I think that's, you know, the message for this entire, what I'm trying to preach is, you know, just get one step better, take one step, get 1% better. And, you know, you're going to look back and be like, wow, look at the progress I made. It's going to be awesome. So,
Yeah, and that kind of reminded me of a quote that I heard on Instagram. Like I think it was yesterday. Um, I'm not going to say it word for word. I kind of forgot, but it goes on the premise that, you know, in business, you just got to start somewhere. You might be lost, but you just got to start. And then as you put in more time and effort, you're going to start growing every day. You know, maybe that 1%, that 2%. You just got to start. It's going to be intimidating. There's literally in a business, there's no such thing as a start line and a finish line. You just
yeah,
start and then you finish, you know, like in
it's
your
a
own kind of,
journey.
yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
So whatever it is, personal finance, starting a business, whatever it is, YouTube, you just got to start somewhere. and make sure you take action every day and increase your work output, or just be more efficient 1%.
Yeah,
Like you
yeah,
said,
absolutely. I totally agree. It's all about taking that first step, which is it's the hardest. Like we said in the beginning of this podcast, like it's the hardest it's to start investing, but it's all about just taking action, and soon enough you'll feel more comfortable, and you can keep on making progress. So for sure.
So yeah, John, I don't want to take too much of your time. So if people want to like hit you up, find you, what social media platforms can they find you in?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm most active on TikTok. I'm at JohneFinance. That's where I post all my content, all my videos. That's really where I'm most active. You can also find me on Instagram at JohneFinance as well. And I also have a Discord group. You can find that like on my Instagram or TikTok, whichever one you go to. But yeah, JohneFinance basically everywhere. And I'll be starting a YouTube channel hopefully within the next few months. So stay tuned for that. And Andres, yeah, I appreciate you having me on for the call, dude. I love talking with entrepreneurial minds like you. And I think what you're doing is, really great for, like you said, it's a win-win-win, win for me, win for you, win for the audience. So that's awesome.
For sure, man. So I'm really looking forward to your YouTube channel. It's going to be based about personal finance, kind of like more of a macro version of what you're doing on TikTok, right?
Yeah, basically, yeah. It's going to be personal finance, basically longer form content. I'll talk about investing, personal finance, even retirement, saving, credit cards, things like that. So yeah.
And maybe real estate, because now you're into that now.
Real estate too. Yeah, that's a good catch for sure. I'll be definitely talking about real estate. So.
All right, cool, man. So I really do appreciate it. And yeah, I'll definitely notify you. I'll let you know when the podcast is uploaded. All right.
Awesome. Perfect, man. I definitely appreciate it.
Cool, John. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.